like to start interview by asking you what your favorite word is.
My favorite word? My favorite word is probably integrity.
Can I ask why?
Well, I think it means you're honest. It means you're true to yourself. It means you're true to others. It means that you can be trusted. And I think that's a quality that's very important for people to have, especially lawyers. But everybody who has integrity is somebody that you may not always agree with, you may argue with, but you know they're at least being honest with you.
So what exactly do you do as a personal injury attorney?
My job is to try to obtain reasonable compensation for people who are injured through the fault of someone else. It could be an auto accident where you get hit in a crosswalk when you have a green light. It could be a product that is defective. It could also be you slip and fall on, let's say, pavement that is too slippery and shouldn't be slippery. So what I do is I try to make a claim for injuries, for compensation for people who lose their enjoyment of life, who incur medical bills, who incur wage loss, and just experience much pain and suffering. And since we can't put the person back into their pre-injury or pre-accident state, the only way the law allows is to give them compensation in money. So we try to get money damages for them for all they've lost. Before I did a lot of personal injury or entertainment law, I did mostly civil rights types of cases. So for many years I did employment discrimination cases. I did cases fighting for the rights of minorities or people of color. So the Fred Korematsu case came along, and it became probably the most significant case I've handled for so many reasons. It was perhaps one of the most important cases in American history, where the United States government imprisoned 110,000 Americans of Japanese ancestry without a trial, without notice of charges, without the right to an attorney. Those rights are enshrined in the Constitution, and yet the United States government ignored those rights and summarily imprisoned Japanese Americans. So from a legal point of view, it was one of the most significant cases that ever went to the Supreme Court, and it's taught in law school to this day. Every law student in the country reads that case. But it was also very much historically important, of course, because it was a turning point in the whole idea of what civil rights are in this country. Personally, it affected me greatly because my parents were put in camps. My then one-year-old brother was put in the camps. So our whole family was, including our oji-chan, oba-chan, our grandparents, relatives. And so it was very personal to me. When the court decided against Fred Korematsu in 1944, on grounds that were pretty defenseless, on grounds that just didn't hold up under logic, under the truth of what the facts at the time. There was no evidence of espionage or sabotage, but the government made up these notions or these ideas in order to support and justify what happened to Japanese Americans. In the entertainment side is a little different, and the reason I got into entertainment law is I've always wanted to feel some way to make a change in this country for the better, for people of color, for Japanese Americans, for Asian Americans. What appears on television and in the movies really changes white America or other Americans' perception of who Asian Americans are. So if you have Asian Americans on TV who are, unattractive, can't speak English, act really stupid, well, that's what America is going to think Asian Americans are. So when we got into entertainment, the entertainment world, we wanted to support people who would present a positive image of Asian Americans, to dispel the notion that we are different than other people. So by representing newscasters, for example, the people who are my clients are usually really attractive people. They are really smart. They speak English perfectly. And so they create an image that the rest of America doesn't usually see, perhaps in their neighborhood in Kansas or in Nebraska. They'll see somebody who is an American who doesn't look like them, but can speak English well and is an attractive person. So I feel like the entertainment part of what we do is really to produce images for the rest of the country, or the rest of the world for that matter, that are positive and put Asian Americans in a good light. So when we represent a Christy Yamaguchi, for example, and they know, and she's proud of being Japanese American, and she talks about it, then people will say, well, gee, they will understand that an Olympic gold medalist representing this United States of America happens to be Japanese, and therefore, you know, we should be more accepting of people who look different than us or come from different cultural backgrounds. And that to me helps promote equality and more harmony and more compassion. And I think this is where we need to go as a country.
I'm from Osaka, and I understand that San Francisco and Osaka is a sister city. And I'm impressed that you helped form San Francisco Japantown Foundation. Does that foundation do some kind of exchange program between sister cities?
It doesn't yet. The city of San Francisco has its own, its quote program. It's not quite a program, but they send delegations back and forth sometimes. My partner Don Tamaki is the president of the Nihonmachi Foundation, or the Japantown Foundation. And I'm sure as the foundation grows that they may want to expand into that area. Right now they're more committed to preserving Japantown in San Francisco. I also liked Osaka, and Osaka I liked because it was very efficient. People there were very, in a way I found them to be a little more straightforward. They would kind of tell you what they think, and businesses were run really efficiently. You could get really wonderful tonkatsu for very cheap and very fast. You could see that there was a lot of energy in Osaka because a lot of business was being transacted. So I also enjoyed Osaka a lot too.
In Osaka, did you eat their special food?
Okonomiyaki?
Yes.
Yes, we did. We had that. And I like that too. So most of the Japanese food we had then were not like Japanese food here. You know, here it's just more simple type of food. And from the old days, you know, tonkatsu, sashimi, sushi. But there's way more variety in Japan. The bridge to Japan, I think history is important. And I think history of what your ancestors went through, the struggles they went through, are important. I think it's also important, for me, history is like a stream that you're in, and you want to flow with the stream because you want to find your place in this flow of history. And if you understand what your ancestors have gone through, what people in Japan have gone through, what your motherland or your ancestral country is like, the more you can understand who you are, and the more you can place yourself within the flow of that history, so that you find that you're not just alone. You find yourself as part of a long lineage of people who have struggled and worked hard. You find yourself as part of an evolving community of Japanese Americans, of Asian Americans, of Americans. And the more you can learn about where you came from, and the easier it is to see where you can go. And the more you can place yourself within the flow of that history, the more strength you have, and the more wisdom you gain, and the more balance you gain, and actually the more integrity you gain, because you really know who you are. And if you can find that in yourself, I think you've achieved a great, you've achieved something great for yourself.